and niche content creators, because we're doing both of them. I am here with Dandra Bates of the Amphibicast podcast, and we are talking about episodes. How do we know how to make them, but then once we make them, it feeds this beast that is ravenous. And once you make an episode, it's like, thank you, may I have another? It's like, oh, okay, now it's next week. And so anyway, hello, Dan. Say hello to your raving fans out there.
Hey everyone, thanks Bill for having. This is the first time I've ever done any kind of live, so
Oh, really?
Yeah, so enjoy it.
I get to be the first.
Only for you, Bill. Will I do this?
I'm honored. Oh, so anyway, we're talking about an attempt to keep our episodes relevant, and I suppose I'll lay down the framework. Hey, James is here. James is here, and
oh, Blue Collar. Hey, what's up, man?
Blue Collar. Hello, Blue Collar. Welcome.
He's got some amazing builds. Check out his Instagram. He's got some really cool stuff. Wow.
Well, the wonderful thing about Howard. Hello. All right, we got a lot of good people. All right, so the wonderful thing about a live is I can do this live. You say Blue Collar Keeper?
Yeah.
All right. We'll check that out. But so everybody, what we're talking about is keeping our stuff relevant. And those of us like Dan's got a podcast, the Amphibicast. It's all about amphibians in his past 100 episodes, and he's got a lot of incredible information there. I've got Chameleon Academy. I've been doing it for 8 years, and so I think I'm up to 300 some episodes, and on YouTube I got 350 videos or something like that. It's like, the problem is that a lot of these things are meant to be educational, and of course they just get lost in everything. And so we're talking about how do we make it relevant. And so anyway, Dan, go ahead. Let's talk about what's been going on in your mind regarding this.
Well, it's interesting because the frogs are going to go off nonstop.
We love the frogs. Keep the frogs. We want the frogs.
Here's the thing. Staying current in something like this it's easy and it's hard. It's easy because you have a lot of great people out there who put out a lot of good content, people who I can draw inspiration from. Obviously, you, Dylan, Animals at Home. There's a lot of people that I'll actually watch or listen to your podcast and get an idea of, right, well, this is what they're doing. This is what works for them. How can I translate that into something that's going to work for me? But it's also bad because this is, as a niche content creator, there's a limit to what you can draw from this well. So if this was a podcast about, like, I'm trying to think of paranormal is a great example because I listen to paranormal podcasts. That's a much deeper well to draw from because that's huge. Dart Frogs is a relatively small community. It kind of became the focus niche of my podcast, even though it covers broader amphibian content. But there's not. I reach out to researchers. I reach out to keepers because it's an evolving thing. It continues to grow. The knowledge base continues to expand, but it's not going at the rate of other, areas that you might want to have a podcast or a YouTube channel or whatever about. So it does become somewhat limiting because, you just as well as I do, you have a very, very specialized niche that people are going to be very, very adamantly into it. But there's limits to what you can do. Like, for example, I haven't been releasing episodes necessarily every week. I've been kind of doing bundles of like 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatnot, because I want to provide people with a good experience, but I don't want to constantly repeat myself. So if I'm going to revisit a topic, I want to revisit it from a different angle or from a new perspective or with a new person. So I found that some of the other podcasts that have been out there, especially like the animal podcast, is they did an episode back in, say, 2018, 2019, and then they do the same episode in 2023. The question is, the same people who have been along with you for the entire ride, are they going to notice that and say, well, he already did this? Or does your audience grow in such a way that they're going to appreciate something they may have never heard before. And I caught that with the artist series that I did. I did a two-part. There's gonna be more episodes to it, but the way the scheduling went, it started off with two parts. And I had an idea of what I wanted to do. I wanted to get two people who were artists, that could apply to this type of community. But I felt bad leaving a week out. But I said to myself, I don't want to just phone it in and do something that's going to be either a repeat or something that's not going to be really relevant and have people say, what was that? So moving forward, there's going to be weeks where I'm not going to put on an episode because there's other stuff going on. I mean, even like this week, I didn't put anything out because you and I were going to have this live stream. I never do a live stream, so if anybody's interested in my content, all right, bang, here you go. But it is hard to stay relevant because you commit so much time and so much effort into developing these topics into episodes, and then week after week after week after week, they get buried in this big pile of more and more episodes. And with the artist series, I sent out a little thing on Instagram asking people, who do you want to see, whatnot. And I can't get to everybody. I'll be honest with you. I can't. A lot of great suggestions, and I ended up with two great people. I'm really, really, really happy. I had two wonderful people, two wonderful artists. But people suggested a certain person to me, and I got a lot of responses asking for this. This guy's photographer is actually Zach Hare. And I had to remind everybody I had Zach on the show for episode 50. And a lot of people hadn't caught that. And so that kind of said to me, well, maybe you need to do this in such a way that people are going to be able to see, or not see, hear older episodes and be able to revisit that content. I don't want to air reruns, but is that something that's going to benefit new listeners? Is that something that people might want to hear, like best of or whatever? I don't really know. But the fact that I had a tremendous, Zach Hare is a great photographer. I had him on, and people didn't realize that I had him on. And, it was a couple of years later, he was on episode 50. Now we're at like 135. So I was concerned, for the listeners. I wanted to make sure everybody was able to catch up and they could stay current. So the issue with me is, do I bang out episode after episode in a very like rapid fire succession, or do I put episodes out and let them kind of sink in for a little bit? I haven't really figured it out. I've been communicating with listeners, and you and I talk about stuff like this. We had a podcast thing going on. I talk to you. I talk to Richard Stewart. I haven't spoken to Dylan in a while, but we kind of confer and decide what's working and what's not. And I try to keep it a nebulous thing. I try to experiment because, if you're doing the same thing over and over again, it's not necessarily having the desired effect. Maybe you need to tweak something to change it. So,
all right. Well, I'll give
a long, convoluted answer to that. But
Oh, by the way, anybody who's listening, this is interactive. If you have questions or comments, please put them in there and let's talk about it. Dan and I will talk back and forth, but we really would love to interact, and that's what this forum is for. And quality over quantity, in my opinion. Now, I would, when it comes to redoing the episodes, in my opinion, I think that's okay. Say I have about a 2-year window, and then if I am okay repeating an episode in 2 years. But the thing is, it's not really a repeat because with the chameleon thing and even the entrepreneur, all of the stuff I'm doing, I am living that life, and I am aggressively pushing it forward, both in the community and my experience and my ability to present it, like hydration or UVB or any of that kind of stuff. So even if I repeat the topic, it's like there's a different perspective because I've grown. And so I just do it. And also I have so much out there, I forget what I've done.
Yeah.
So I'd say, wait a minute, have I done this before? And I figure, well, maybe if I haven't remembered,
this
maybe nobody else does.
This is what gave me hope. Well, not like I was hopeless, but watched your video
Christopher
with,
loves your show, by the way.
what's that? Oh, thank you, Christopher. I appreciate it. Thank you. I listened to your last episode of the Chameleon Academy with, oh God, what was his name?
Peter Nichus?
Peter, yes.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I know you've done many different episodes on chameleon hydration, and I'm not much of a chameleon, I'm nothing of a chameleon person, but I watched that, and Peter was really interesting, really engaging, and I listened to the whole thing, and I actually took a lot of that away in terms of things that I could apply to certain species, even though you had done hydration issues in the past. You kept it current by doing a fresh take on it, because I've been listening to your podcast a long time, and I remember you doing episodes about hydration, and there were different periods throughout the course of your podcast that you revisited it because there was a new take on it. And
Mm-hmm.
the issue with that Peter brought up about using a fogger to keep chameleons hydrated, I started thinking about it, and I realized, like, wow, it's the same topic, but it has absolutely nothing to do with the previous topics, because now it's a fresh perspective. And I actually, believe it or not, started thinking about my own husbandry with my snakes, and I found that my snakes that appreciate higher ambient humidity are drinking less and seem to be happier with the higher ambient humidity. So I'm thinking to myself, well, I may have been keeping things too dry, and it might not necessarily just be the ambient humidity. They might be drawing hydration from the air in a similar way that the chameleons do. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but it got me thinking on the idea, and I felt like, for your perspective, it was a great way to revisit a topic without completely repeating it, because you had somebody new to come on and talk about it.
Yeah, and also that isn't just like, oh, okay, I'll do something on hydration. The progression of hydration it's been an active growth, personal growth for my part, and that's one of the greatest growths for my part during the entire podcast. And if you go back to 2016, I did an episode on hydration that in 2018 I had a completely different take on hydration. I had to go back and change that episode. And since 2018, I've been experimenting with fogging. I've been working with other people. And then finally, this week, I said, okay, it is time that we take the next step for the entire community. And so this is the advantage of me living the life. It's like I don't ever have an issue as to what do I talk about. The issue is always, what do I have time to put together? And yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. James Cross, he was on the live session that, if you want to see a little bit more about the humidity and the fogging, you can check out the live session on YouTube where brought Peter on, and then James was here, and actually Sean from the Reptile Show Reporter, he was on it too. And we really worked some more ideas. But this is the problem that we're talking about here. Is I had so many issues about episodes about hydration, and a lot of them go well together. It's like, how do I make sure that those aren't lost to antiquity, and so people can access them? And the only way I'm going to be able to do that, I think, is through a website. Unless they're YouTube videos and I can do a playlist, I got to have a website, or else there's no way to link all of that information.
That's a good idea. That's honestly a great idea. I didn't even think about that, about lumping topics. And I mean, again, I haven't gotten very far with the creation of my website. I know you released this episode and I talked a good game, but I'm still really, really behind with it. But yeah, I think that's a good idea. You clump certain episodes together on just, a banner of a certain topic. I think that could be pretty useful. And like, the other thing is, like, with staying current, is like, you make mistakes along the way, because the stuff that I talk about today and you talk about today might not necessarily be accurate a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now.
Yep,
we might learn something completely different. So then it's a double-edged sword, because you got to ask yourself, do I want to have older, maybe antiquated information out there where it might be used by someone who didn't necessarily catch up with what's current. I don't know. These are all like, moral quandaries that I have constantly because I don't know. I want to keep the show current, but at the same time, I want people to be able to revisit old topics. I don't know.
Well, if you have your website or a playlist on YouTube, it's like you can keep that thing updated. And I mean, both YouTube and podcast, if there is nothing there to constantly be pushing it up to the surface, it's just going to disappear. And the only people that are going to listen to it are the ones that are so dedicated that they just say, okay, I'm going to binge every single episode. And one thing that you can consider is, I mean, YouTube has now started their YouTube podcast. And so that may be something that that would work for you.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything from Buzzsprout, which is the hosting site that I use. They emailed me maybe about a month ago. You and I talked a little briefly about, I think, the last time you and I messaged each other. And I'm looking forward to it, but I don't know what's involved. I don't know if the podcast will just show up there on YouTube or if I have to submit it or what. I'm assuming it'll probably get listed by Buzzsprout regardless. But
that's not the way YouTube is working it right now. They are not going to present an RSS feed, at least not now.
Okay.
They may accept an RSS feed, but then that would be on their YouTube Music app, which is something different.
All right, maybe that's where I'm misguided then.
But what you would have to do is set up an Amphibicast YouTube channel, and then take your podcasts and put them to a still picture.
Yeah.
Now, that used to be the kiss of death on YouTube.
Yep.
People hated that.
Yeah.
That's not the case anymore. And I will admit I accidentally tested this because I did this before and I realized this is a disaster. But I accidentally did this when I was playing around with YouTube podcasts, and I ended up with I put on a podcast that was just to a still picture, just to my show art. And to my horror, YouTube put it on my feed. I thought, okay, it's going to go into their little podcast bucket. Nope, it's going to go onto your feed. And so I assumed I was going to be losing followers. But the opposite happened. It was one of my more popular than some of my videos. I gained subscribers. And so I think things are changing as to how people use YouTube. And I've done that since. And the videos that I've put up, the audios that I have put up have actually done as well as my videos. I try to now, if I'm going to do that, I try to lessen the shock, and I have a video intro saying, "Hey, okay, this video is going to be this is an audio podcast, and it's going to be about stress and chameleons. And so I invite you to sit back with your coffee or wine. You don't have to look at anything and just listen to this experience. This is an audio only experience." And then I have my podcast against my show art. And people have accepted that just like they've accepted any video.
I tried doing that maybe about a year ago. I tried syncing the audio with a single picture. I usually the default photograph that I usually use is one of my Phyllobates, the bicolor. That was the species I kind of based the logo on, anyways. The yellow and green kind of became the show's colors. And I did it with like one episode, and I think I did it in iMovies or something like that. It was a bit involved, not really involved, just time consuming. And then I did that, and I'm like, well, now I'd have to go back and do this for every single episode. For me at this point, it's just not realistic. So the question is, where do I want to go with this? And I've been pretty like proactive about just being audio only, but I don't know. I've never been a video person, which everybody kind of knows. So I wouldn't want to go through all that effort unless it was going to have a substantial conversion. But
well, if you were going to be doing it, I would say just experiment with, just start with wherever you are right now. Don't go and try to do 100 episodes. Just don't try to catch up. Just start where you are now and see what happens.
Yeah, I thought maybe doing something, maybe it's like starting with starting wherever I am, whenever I choose to do, episode 100 and whatever. Because trying to go back and do that with probably close to like 200 at this point, probably close to 300 hours of content is going to be a little bit much even for me.
Yeah, I guess you also have to say, what do you want out of it? It would increase your reach. You would tap into the YouTube audience, but is that important to you?
I don't know, to be honest. I mean, you got to ask yourself, where do you want to go with this? What do you want to do? I don't know. I mean, I create a very, very niche type of content in a very, very niche type of media. There's thousands, if not millions, of podcasts out there, and I don't know if YouTube is going to be a goal for me, because it really is. It's to me, it's an audio media. I mean, maybe I'm being closed-minded, maybe I'm being old-fashioned, but I don't know. I mean, plus I'm also kind of a camera shy person. I mean, despite the way I may come off, I couldn't imagine doing like, editing audio and video all in one sitting. Plus the other thing is, a lot of the guests that I have gotten have also come on under the condition of there not being video. A lot of people out there are camera shy and they don't want to be on camera. So
are you still getting that?
What's that?
Are you still getting that?
Yeah. Yeah,
really?
There's a lot of people that don't want to be on video for whatever reason. I mean, sometimes people, look, it's 7:00 on a Thursday night. Hey, look, I just got home from work. I mean, my hair's a mess, or I came in from the field, and not a huge margin, but I'd say maybe like, 1 in 10, 1 in 20 people are actually happier with the fact that there's no video involved. And again, in this type of niche, you kind of have to, you have to accommodate people, because, you start, you don't want to eliminate people. You don't want to, potentially alienate someone who'd be interested in doing the show just because of video. I don't know what it is. Some people, especially scientists are usually not really big about doing video. I don't know what it is. It's, but look, to each his own. I don't know. It was never really one of my goals, because the other thing with YouTube is, the goal with YouTube is to obviously record, do whatever you want to do, with your content. Obviously, people enjoy making a certain content. That's why they get into it. But the goal is, well, it's either to make money, which is fine. People should be able to make a living off of their content. But I know for a fact that to really make money on YouTube, you have to, you're going to be in a small percentage of people, and you have to really, really, work at it.
Yeah.
And from the people that I do know that do YouTube full time, they enjoy it, they love it, and they make decent money. But it's not just YouTube; it's other sources of income. And ironically, what I found is, especially this year, is doing this for money. It's a lot of work. It is, and it's for minimal return. I mean, I'm not Joe Rogan here. There are people who do make full time. They make 6-figure incomes off a podcast. But like I said, they're drawing from a deep well that they can pump out content. They know their audience, and they, can do that. And some of them do it completely without YouTube. I know a couple of podcasts that exist. Hosts make a full time living without doing anything on YouTube other than just bare minimal promotion stuff. So it can be done. And I feel like I'm already putting a lot of effort into this media through the audio, through the podcast. I feel like if I was going to convert over to YouTube, I'd have to kind of convert my whole operation. I can't kind of do like 50-50. I don't know. I don't want to close the door on it and say that it's never going to happen, because you really shouldn't say never. But it's something I'm considering. I would just want to see, like, I want to see it to be worth the effort.
Yeah. Well, the question is, what would you want from it? If, say, you got 100 more listeners, what would that get you?
You're right. That's the plus aspect of it, because if you're reaching new people that wouldn't necessarily listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or it's on Amazon now too. A lot of people spend a lot of time on YouTube, and honestly, I'm one of them. I love watching stuff on YouTube, but if that can turn into a conversion with a greater audience, then that's great. That's why I was hoping naively that YouTube would be able to incorporate an RSS feed into its streaming service. I was hoping that that would happen, but you burst my bubble, Bill. So
Well,
it's obviously
they're
not going to
trying
happen.
to they're trying to compete with Spotify, so
Yeah,
I am absolutely certain that they are, number one, going to have an RSS feed to send out to everybody else, and that they'll accept it at least for their music app. Maybe
yeah.
not for their, I don't know if they'll do it for their
Well, let
video.
me ask you a question. What I know the chameleon, well, it was started out with the Chameleon Breeders podcast, right?
Yep,
You've
yep,
been doing this for a long time,
yep.
much longer than I have. You didn't start out with YouTube though, right? You graduated into that after doing the audio for a while, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I
Why did you,
am video under protest.
but why did you get into YouTube? Like what was the
Because
motivation for you?
because part of my outreach and mission is to be educational to beginners, and I am a somewhat sophisticated podcast. I'll say that. I mean, the things I go into are pretty meaty, and they're really meant for somebody who wants to dig into chameleons. And so that kind of person does find my podcast. But one of the biggest things I need to do is get to the people before they are part of the chameleon community. And so that is the number one reason why I went on to YouTube, is to reach people before they type in, okay, chameleon Facebook group and stuff. Because
Yeah.
usually when people say, okay, I want to be part of a group on social media, they already have the chameleon. And so I really want to get to them where they are before they get their chameleon. And YouTube is the natural place for that. And also, I mean, video is the way everything is going. And so I do have to keep up with the times.
Mm.
We got a question here. This is Howard. Can you use social media just for name recognition, reputation? Advertising is so expensive, so creating social channels can be a great way to increase name recognition as well as reputation. I'll go first on this one and say absolutely. Social media is a great way to get your name out there and develop a community. I mean, obviously, I do that on Instagram. I have lives on Instagram. I have lives on YouTube. And it's just like creating a community. The one thing about it is every single channel that you bring, you create, is an investment, because you can't just put stuff on there. You have to nurture the audience on there. And it takes a while to really build up an audience. So yeah, there's a lot of work for every outreach if you want to do it right. What do you think, Dan? You're on Instagram.
Yeah, I mean, the only social media platform that I use is Instagram, and I was originally drawn to Instagram because it was pretty neutral. It was just photographs, and I found it beneficial because you could add a video. Not well. Now you can't add a video, but you could add a visual element to audio. So if someone wanted to listen to an audio, I put up something on Instagram, and then that's the hook, and hopefully that turns into a conversion. So if I put a picture of a dart frog, and someone likes the post, whatever, I put something in the text, be sure to follow the podcast, whatever. Um, the idea is that visual impact turns into an auditory experience for the listener. So that for a while on Instagram, that seemed to work pretty well. Then Instagram kind of degraded, we'll say, in terms of quality, and I'm just not seeing the caliber of photographs that I used to see 2 or 3 years ago. I see a lot of reels and a lot of short form video, which is great. But you know what? You're not engaging with that. You're scrolling through it like, all right, oh, that's funny. That's funny. Oh, that's pretty cool. And then, you pass it by. And I felt like with Instagram being on a slower pace before the short form stuff, I felt like that lended more into directing people to the audio part of it. At least that's the way I perceived it. But I'm not. I mean, I'm not active on other social media platforms because I didn't really have much of an interest in it because there's so much nonsense that goes on in there, and
Hmm.
I didn't want to be part of that. I mean, maybe I kind of shot myself in the foot, but I don't want to be part of this group says this and this group says that. I mean, maybe I should get involved in it, but I really didn't want that to be the goal. I wanted the podcast to be very, very neutral, and I didn't want it to fall into the whole Facebook fiasco. And unfortunately, there's just not a lot of other there's forums and whatnot, but I can't go on a forum and like hijack the forum to promote my show. That's just wrong. Plus, they'll boot me. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, that's a great question. What do you do? Because it's a balancing act because now you constantly have to reformat your approach to marketing the show based on whatever social media is doing. And a lot of times that moves a lot faster than you can evolve to change your model with it. So it's a matter of not getting caught, finally becoming current with technology that's outdated by 2 or 3 years. I guess that's the only way I could put it. It's hard. It's difficult. It seems like it would be easy, but trying to stay current and relevant with the social media aspect of it, that catches up fast.
What is important to you? You're in an interesting situation because you you have done the you are over you had your 100 podcast episode milestone a while ago. So
Mhm.
this is a serious thing. Very few podcasts get past, I mean, relatively small amount get past 10 episodes, much less 100. And so you're dedicating a lot of time to this, and yeah, I'm wondering what is what gives you fulfillment? What do you need? Do you really need more listeners?
Um, yeah, I mean, there's plenty of times where I ask myself, why do I do this? And I have developed a very good listener base. I have, a decent number of downloads for a podcast so it's audio only. And I obviously there's other podcasts out there that I do compete with in one way or another. I have, you know, there's a lot of them out there. I mean, there's nothing that focuses specifically in amphibians, so I kind of had that on the log. But ideally, yeah, I would like to have a bigger audience base.
Yeah, but I mean, when they have the choice to listen to a podcast about chameleons, I know that's a tough thing to be up against.
It, but the point is, see, this is the thing. I could listen to your podcast even though I have no chameleons because I take things away from what you talk about in your show, your content, and translate it into things that could apply to me. And I do have that dynamic to mine as well, where I have people that may only keep one or two frogs, or they're mostly reptile people or whatever. But I feel like there's a certain vein of podcast out there, and it's for me, it's like walking amongst giants. Like I'm happy to be able to be on the same high level as people like you. Dylan, Richard Stewart Richard hasn't done an episodes in a while, but Richard Stewart's podcast was great, and it's nice to be in that same vein and know that there are commonalities. There's the same listeners, the same people who listen to yours, listen to mine, listen to
Mhm.
Dylan's, listen to Richard's. And that's the audience that I want. I want an audience that's going to be actively engaged in the topic because I feel like these are the people that are going to take the most out of it. Would it be great to get hundreds of thousands of downloads every episode? Yeah, it was great because that could also convert into, realistic, financial stuff. I mean, don't get me wrong, it would be great to do this full time, but it's not. This is not paying the bills. This is, I do get some income from it, but it's not a tremendous amount of money. So, what do I want? Ideally, it would be nice to increase listenership, have the audience continue to grow. I'd like to have new people come into it. Uh, I think that having beginners come in and look at it from this approach with people on the show who are very experienced, hopefully that will convert into a better experience. But I mean, every community is different. There's little sub communities in every niche, and I feel like the dart frog community kind of by default is kind of high level. So that's the audience that I cater to, and that's also the audience that generally grew the most for me. Because when I started this, it really wasn't a focus on dendrobatids. I mean, it kind of was, but that's kind of where it went based on my experiences and audience input. Um, what do I want to get out of this? I don't know. Why have I done so many episodes? Um, I like the challenge. I like to succeed where other people have failed. And I feel like there's a lot of podcasts out there that came and went. And, you know, I'd like to continue going with this, but I want to continue to go in a way that's going to be, relevant and at the same time, not get buried. I don't want to create an avalanche of content and have it, just go by the wayside.
Yeah, the more we talk, the more it's just obvious that a website is perfect for you, because that allows you, and you're pretty good at writing. You do some solo episodes that you write, and those are blog posts, and that's what Google eats up and sends to people. And so you've got a whole audience that is typing search terms into Google, and that goes directly to your blogs, and
Yeah.
you embed your episode in the blog of the appropriate topic, and that's a discovery. People could
Well,
find you.
that's a good point. And I noticed really within the past year that I come up in Google searches, because it used to be when I would do like a cold call or a cold email to a guest. Usually it's scientists or whatnot. I reach out by email. I used to include a little blurb at the end about who I was and past guests. Now I don't do that anymore because they go to Google, it shows right up. So you're right. I really should be using Google to my advantage because it would draw people to that. Again, it's really for me the biggest challenge right now is just getting the website up in a way that I can update it as
Yeah.
frequently as I want. Because to be honest with you, I regret using WordPress. I wish I would have gone with another program that was more simple. But
Oh,
I
you can do that now. You
yeah
can just quit WordPress and just move your domain name.
yeah I know that's the other thing I have to figure out. I feel like for what I don't like stuff that's not user friendly, and I feel like to 2023 there really is no excuse to have technology that's not user friendly. I mean, I'm not sending a probe to Alpha Centauri here. I mean, building a website. Billions of people have websites, and obviously, again, to my disadvantage, I'm not that technologically inclined. But it's frustrating because the other thing is, it's a financial setback because obviously you put money into paying for the website, and it's kind of a loss. You kind of have to write that off. But ideally, I'd like to have something that I could do just what you said. Have a conversion in something that would be a shorter form where people can go there, get what they need from there, and then hopefully, traffic it to the podcast. It's just it gets overwhelming because there's so much. Now the solo episodes, I save the text for all that. So technically I could just cut and paste that, but it's a matter of just finding the right platform to be able to cut and paste that, into a blog format. So
Yeah, well, um, that's what I do, and obviously I've been doing it for a while now, and so now I have a pretty good representation on Google. But that's a great way to keep my episodes current, because if it's still good, if it's evergreen, it goes in a blog post, or it goes on a page that is picked up by Google. But so Howard is saying he needs a website, has a domain but no website. Howard, what are you going to be using a website for? What will that do for you? It's always interesting to see what people want from a website and what they're going to be doing. So, uh, and the thing about a website, you start a website and it eats up your time as well.
mm-hmm.
There's no such thing as just creating it and leaving it, because you always got to update it, or else
Yeah.
it just dies. And Google's not gonna doesn't like websites that aren't updated. So it's a whole new outreach.
The other thing, it's funny that you mentioned that because, you know, you and I are old enough that we were, pre-internet.
Yeah.
And the very first websites that went up, I mean, I'm sure you feel the same way, but websites that I was on, when we first got the internet in like 1997, you think it's a website, it's only going to be around forever. No, it's not. There's websites that don't exist anymore for whatever reason. And you don't think about that at this point in the game, that your website can just become obsolete and just completely just disappear just because you don't maintain it. And you're right, you have to maintain it, you have to keep it current, you have to keep it updated, otherwise it's just it's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah. So, and that's why having a podcast or even a YouTube video, it's kind of nice when you do that a week. That's a post, and that keeps things relevant. So, wait a minute. Howard is saying, "Going to follow my advice and starting small." What are you starting a breeding operation, or are you starting a social
Windows 95.
influencer? Who here knows Windows?
Windows
Oh, Windows 95. Uh, XP.
XP. Yeah.
How many people here know what we're talking about?
uh, two of us probably, maybe
Yeah,
three.
yeah. Oh, so Howard saying wants a website to maintain and create my small business. Okay, but yeah, it's yeah, that's good. That's good. And websites are great with that. And the nice thing about a website, if there's any creators there out in our chat here, if you're a creator, you're making episodes, weekly episodes, having a website and be an educational outreach is a real easy way to have more episodes planned than, I mean, you can easily have a year's episodes planned just by creating your website, figuring out what pages you need, and just say, I'm going to create a podcast episode for each page and embedded it. I mean, whenever I just get so tired of doing research to put together, I mean, like the fogging stuff that I do, last fogging episode, I had to put together a page for that, and I had to figure out, how do I explain this? And I didn't even do the illustrations and the pictures, so it was just the text, but it was a lot of work and a lot of energy into that. And whenever I decide, okay, I am just so tired of making these episodes that take a week of my time to put together, I just go to one of my website pages that doesn't have an embedded podcast, and I say, okay, I'm gonna make a podcast for that page. And yeah, it's still a lot of work to write 4,500 words, but it just seems like it's a little bit easier. It seems kind of like a vacation. Oh, okay, this is easy. I'm just going to write for this topic, and I'm not going to have to research. But yeah, benefit to a website. Oh,
Very true.
well, do you have a plan for what you're going to do for 2023 as far as episodes? Or
Um,
how
you
far
know,
in advance do you do this?
it's funny because I have plans, but I find that I think to myself, well, oh God, like I don't have anybody lined up. I got no guests. I got no guests. I got nobody lined up. And then I just kind of come up with, and I think it's like, come up with an idea. What can I do? And I tried to focus on not just like trying to repeat the same stuff, but like I kind of changed my attitude is just, look, if you can come on the show and you can tell a story and you can be interesting and relevant and brings, I mean, it's got to be somewhat frog related, but um, everyone doesn't have to be a scientist. And I found out that within the past month or so, it's been getting harder and harder to get researchers on the show. People are, it's not 2020. People are back in the field. They're back teaching. They're doing
Okay.
whatever they're doing, and it's not as easy to get on the same page as everybody, which is fun. It's 3 years later, but I feel like for the show to keep moving at the momentum that it is, I have to kind of be open to having different types of topics on the show, because when someone mentioned this to me a while back, he says it really doesn't. If people like the content, they're going to listen to it, and not every episode is going to be a home run, and not every topic is going to be a home run. But I feel like if I'm going to limit myself to just having, scientific experts come on, that's not going to be viable in the long term. So I ran the artist series, and I'm going to run more artist series because people enjoy hearing that stuff. And, I want to have a more broad palette of people to come on the show. And then there's some people that, I've had some guests on and people really enjoy them. And, I'll have them back on again. Like I take a lot of advice from listeners and people, who make suggestions and whatnot. But, at the end of the day, it's my show.
Mm-hmm.
And I do what I think is right. And I try to provide everybody with the best possible experience that they can. And, what worked in 2020 is going to be different for 2023. So I think learning to adapt and have realistic expectations of what I want to get out of this from a week to week basis, I think that's going to be my goal, is, establishing my priorities and producing a show at a pace and at a level of quality that I think is going to be manageable for me. Because, again, it's not 2020. I have a life too. You have a life. You have a family. I have a family. I can't necessarily, if I don't feel like I have something worthy of putting out on a Friday, I'm not going to put it out. If I wait another week or whatever it is, I want to be able to develop that episode enough that when it comes out, people aren't just going to listen to it for 5 minutes and then, pass by, because then I've wasted my time and I've wasted theirs. So, I guess that's if to answer your question, what is my goal for 2023? I think it's going to be to, make sure that the quality and the pace of the show is consistent with what I can provide and what the audience can appreciate and digest.
What do you think would have to happen for you to make happen to where December 31st, you look back and said, I had an awesome year?
That's a good question. I think that
the fact that often my answer to that would be I survived it.
That was going to be my answer, honestly, was the fact that I made it. I kind of sat back and thought to myself, I'm like, well, I've been doing this since 2020, which is, 2020 to 21, 21, 22, 23, it's going to be, it's almost 4 years. And I kind of got into such a routine with it, I couldn't really imagine life without it. But yeah, I think the fact that you make it to the end of another calendar year and you think, wow, like I did it, that to me is satisfying, But again, I feel like things have to evolve and things have to change. I mean, think about how many TV series, come and go. I mean, you want to make sure that you maintain that quality that's something that you can be proud of. I mean, like, think about The Simpsons. The Simpsons have been on since 89.
Yeah.
I remember watching The Simpsons when they were on the Tracy Ullman show. And, my opinion was, a little rocky start to get going by, season like 3 and 4. That was like great. But I haven't watched the show in like 10 years because I felt like the quality just went down. So you got to ask yourself, what's the long-term goal? And for me, the long-term goal is going to be to provide quality. Netflix will release a series. The series will air 13 episodes, and it's gone for, a year, 2 years, 3 years, or whatever. And hopefully people come back to it. I don't want to completely saturate, my podcast, creation, whatever. I don't want to completely saturate it with episode after episode after episode, and then have quality deteriorate. I really want it to stay kind of in line with what I would expect to get out of it. So if that means releasing episodes on a staggered pace, then so be it. I don't want to create too much where people just don't have the time, to take it all in, or I don't have the time to produce it all. So,
well, I throw this out, not because I have the answer, but because I ask myself this question. Assuming, because I'm going to make it to the end of this year, and I will have completed my 8th season. And I look back, and some of those seasons, I have one podcast every week. Sometimes every season has different levels of podcast because I'm going through different stages of my life. It's gone on so long that, yeah, I mean, I can look at my episode outreach and I know exactly what was going on during my life. It's like a history of Bill. But and then I say, okay, so what's next year gonna look like? Am I just going to be done with the ninth season, then the 10th season? And the question is, what is it that makes it worth doing another season? Now, we're not on the Chameleon channel, so this is kind of I'm not gonna don't want to say that, but uh, I know right now what is driving me forward is there's so many things that I want to know and I want to learn, and I know that I need to do it now. I need to figure out the dry season. I need to figure out how that can affect longevity if we implement certain aspects of it. I really want to get to the bottom of fogging and how it works as hydration, and there's so many educational things I want to put together for people. I mean, now people are selling eggs, and so all of a sudden I have a whole bunch of people out there who are wondering, how do I take care of a hatchling, not a 3-month old, a hatchling? And it's like, gosh, well, by the way, it should be the egg sellers that are taking care of this education, but they're
Yeah.
not. So, that, hello, this is Bill, that's his thing. So I have things that I feel like I need slash want, I want to accomplish. Eh, so, but that's what's pushing me forward. That is why I have, uh, I'm going, I will be going past the eighth season. I know I'm gonna jet past the eighth season, go right into the ninth season because I just, there's just so much that I want to accomplish. But I mean, what keeps podcasters good? This is something I want to ask every podcaster. What keeps you going? Why do you need another season? What's it doing for you? And oh, geesh. You say hello. We got Two Turtle Toms coming in from Korea. He's
I I don't know if you saw. Looks like DG Korean. Bill looks like he's in an enclosure. I was thinking the same thing, but I didn't want to say it.
that's my backyard. This is where my wife puts me. It's okay. I get fogged at night, so I'm okay.
I was going to say the fog is going to come on, and we're going to see how it hydrates. Yeah.
Yeah, this is actually, I started a cage build. That's my pothos cage. It's got all
Mhm.
pothos, different varieties of pothos. And then to the other side was all the plants that I was thinking about using. And before long, I was just, wait a minute, I kind of like it back there like that. And I haven't finished there's no chameleon in there because I haven't finished the cage build. But
Yeah, sometimes it happens. You do a really nice build, and you think to yourself, "I'm not going to put an animal in there; it'll just ruin it."
well, the thing is,
Just trash
if
the
I
place.
put an animal in there, then I have to close the door, and it's an acrylic door, and so all of a sudden it becomes a mirror
Oh,
for everything in the room,
yeah,
and that's
yeah,
distracting. So,
yeah.
yeah, all right, I'm gonna have to figure out the compromise here. So, all right. Well, did you have any comment as far as how many seasons are enough?
Uh, I don't know. I mean, I've kind of one of the things that I've learned in life is that you just kind of know. You'll know when something's right. You'll know when something is not. And I don't have any intention of stopping. I just want to, create a different pace. I mean, even back around Christmas time, you and I were talking. I'm like, look, like I need a break here. I need time to kind of stop and get caught up because the pace is exceeding what I can keep up with. And you told me like, oh yeah, I take a break every January. I'm like, son of a bitch. I wish I had done that for the past three
December and
years.
January, by the way,
Yeah,
2 months.
yeah. And even like this is the other thing. The other thing I took away from it, like I started watching the numbers, and when I didn't air an episode for a week, I still got the same amount of downloads per week.
Okay.
So, I, you know, I don't what that means. I don't know that people are still listening, so they might be picking up on old episodes or whatnot. I don't really know, but I feel like taking a break is not the end of the world. And when I did come back after a break, the downloads for that weekend, that Friday, were like, they went like
Yeah.
through the roof. So I feel like also another part of engaging with your audience also is you're going to have to give the audience something to look forward to. So, like for example, all the streaming services, like that's the big thing now. People will watch 10, 15 episodes of a series, and then it goes away for a couple months, and people are really excited, hopefully, when it comes back. So I want to change that dynamic as well. I mean, that's the kind of thing I've been beaten to death this whole live stream, is that I I want the podcast to exist in a way that's not going to outpace me and not outpace listeners. Because if X amount of people listened on a Friday with a new episode, and next week the same amount of people listened with no new episode, that means the demographics are the same. I'm still getting the same amount of listeners. I'm still getting the same people, whatever. So I don't know. I have no intentions of stopping. I have no intentions of hanging it up. I just want to, adapt to the times and, just put out something that I can say that I'm proud of, and put out something that hopefully people are happy to enjoy.
Okay. All right, everybody in
And
the chat, we've got people that have just joined us. Two Turtle Tom from Korea and DG Korean. Are you in Korea? And Chris Zev Green, and so we've got a lot of people have joined in. Do you guys have any questions for Dan or for me, or about content creation in general, or websites, or any of these kind of things? We're gonna open it up for any comments. We're coming to the end of the show, and so go ahead, and anything on your mind, we'll take we'll
yeah,
we'll talk about.
you get them in now, because you're not getting another live stream out of me
That's
anytime
right.
soon.
Dan is a limited time offer. I mean, you see me all the time, but Dan, you ain't gonna do this again. And Chris is asking, how do you start things out? So yeah, say you want to start a podcast or a video. How do you start?
Have a plan, I guess. Think about what you want to do, and figure out ways to do it. Understand it's not going to necessarily come out perfect the first time, and just be willing to make mistakes and be even more willing to learn from them. Find out what you want to do, and look at other people who do it the way that you want to do it. Find people that you look up to, look at what they do, and somehow translate that into what'll work for you. Like I looked at Bill. I listened to I look at Bill. I listened to Bill. I listened to Bill. I listened to Dylan. I listened to Richard. I listened to all these other people who kind of put out the same content that I wanted to do, and I took the positive stuff away from their show, and I thought to myself, well, how can I convert this into something that will work for me? So find people you look up to, or just talk to people if you want to do something. Pick the person's brain and say, hey, look, I'm interested in this. What are your suggestions? And,
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, been wanting to start a YouTube channel with my reptiles. Okay. So, Chris. Oh yeah, and then DG Korean's on there too. Same. Okay. So I'm going to say, just in a nutshell. Well, first of all, I hope you listen to the podcast Reptile Entrepreneur and the Niche Content Creator, because I do a lot of this. But in a nutshell, what I would say is figure out what you want to get out of it. That's your purpose. Why are you doing this? Your promise, what you're going to provide to an audience. And then I know it's a cliche, but it is just start. Because say come up with a plan for 10 episodes and actually film 2 episodes. You're for YouTube. So what is your style? So just do a bunch of test films and try to put together videos, and then put them out, and then go on to the next one. Because when you start, nobody's going to know you're there. Nobody's going to be looking at it. You're going to be getting like 5 views. It doesn't matter. And those people just accidentally clicked on because they were looking for Taylor Swift. So it doesn't matter. And you got to realize it doesn't matter. It's a lot easier to get better incrementally for the next video, and then better for the next video, than it is to become perfect and just start and have awesome videos. So it's really, It's really jumping in, having a plan, knowing what you want, jumping in, even if you don't know what you want, jump in. You can always restart the channel if it's a complete disaster. But the thing is, there's only so much that you can plan. And then you're not going to be learning anything more. And whatever you learn, you're not going to understand the significance of what you're learning unless you've actually done it. And you're saying, oh my goodness, these are my problems. And then you will appreciate what you are learning. And so that's what I would say in a nutshell. Let's see. What would be your number one piece of advice for someone who wants to create a business around art?
Don't. No, I'm joking. Um, you know, art and creativity is a difficult thing to translate into an income. And I'll tell you from personal experience, my my collegiate background, I went through a bunch of changes. I ended up settling up with a degree in English, which is essentially, excuse my bad English, but didn't really turn out much into shit. It can be difficult. I thought that I had this great skill and that I could do all this creative writing. Unfortunately, it didn't pan out into something that was financially viable. Can you turn, artistry into a career? It just depends on how you translate that into a skill. Like, for example, with English, I knew I wasn't going to write stories for a living. It just wasn't going to happen. So I ended up getting into copywriting. You fill that void where somebody else needs you. You got to find someone who needs you, someone who needs your art, needs your writing, needs your music, whatever. And you have to be able to do it in such a way that you maintain creative control over what it is that you make, but at the same time, you satisfy that need for them enough that it becomes financially, profitable to you. Starting a business in art is difficult. It is, and sometimes it can be, rough because people feel like, they're losing control over their, over the creativity. You get, someone on a board or, a creative director or whatever doesn't like the way you do it. It can be tough. People like, for example, people who work for that big animation company in Florida. I've heard some bad stories about people, losing creative control and kind of being overworked. It can be tough. I guess if you wanted to get into a career like that, I would say, go into it and get into something that you're going to continue to love what you do every day. So if you can build a career off of art and you look forward to it every day, then you've succeeded. How you meet that end, I don't know. To be honest, I would talk to as many professional artists as possible. Like the artist series, Ron Rundo, he does his vivarium art full time. He was able to make that into a very, very niche career that he does very well with. Laura Airy Lee, it's more of a side thing for her. So it's two different approaches, and I feel like the best thing to do would be like anything else. Do what works for you, do what makes you happy, do what you can make a living off of, and don't settle for something, because it's very easy to take something that you really enjoy and that you really, really love and you're really passionate about. And once you start taking criticism and whatnot from other people who don't know what they're talking about, it can really suck the passion out of it. And, I know people who, personal experience, I know people who did art for a living, and, it was tough. They were doing graphic design and whatnot. They were producing products for people. Some VP or some, creative director come in like, well, scrap all this. And it's like, well, I spent the past week on this. It can be tough. I don't know. I guess that's probably like really, really like negative sounding advice, but
Do you know
look, man, just
what
find what you do well, and do it as best as you can.
do you know what art blue collar keeper? I'm looking at your Instagram here.
Oh, he's amazing. He makes amazing
But
stuff.
what
I
kind
should
of
be
art?
asking you for advice.
Yeah, I'm going to follow that. What kind of art? Do you know what kind of art he's talking about? Or blue collar caper? Can you type in what kind of art you're talking about? Are you talking about creating terrariums? Are you do you do paintings? What kind of art are you doing? I'll go ahead and give my perspective on this. For people who want a business around art, the biggest Achilles heel for artists, generally speaking, is the same for people trying to start businesses. And that's marketing. You're excellent at doing art, at writing, at whatever you do, 3D printing, just business. Everybody's excellent at that one thing, but you can't get customers if you don't have a marketing outreach. And so if I was to make a 1 minute 60-second piece of advice to someone who wants to create a business out of, well, anything, is to pick a social media platform that you enjoy and become insanely good at it, whether it's Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. You enjoy taking pictures, that's Instagram. You enjoy doing videos, well, short form video, you can do any of them. Long form video, that's YouTube. Whatever you're good at, focus on that and make that part of your day, is getting insanely good at that, because that is going to be your out. That's how you're going to get customers. And if you're an artist, you know, say you draw. Speaking more in general. Okay. So you're artist, you have your Instagram to where you're drawing, and you're drawing on Instagram. You're letting everybody watch you draw. And so you build up that audience, and sooner or later, you've created an audience that will purchase your art. If you create terrariums, like I saw some awesome terrariums on your Instagram just now, you do terrarium builds, and people will get to know you with for that. And I'm not sure how you would sell that unless you're selling like classes or how to do it, or terrariums themselves, I suppose. So whatever it is, social media has made it easy for us to create a group around the very niche thing that we're good at. And so what I would say is, make the social media platform of your choice a priority, to learn how to use it. You can even get a class if you need it. I actually have I've taken classes, two classes from two experts in Instagram. I've taken 2 classes, and I compare, contrast, and I want to be really good at it, and that's the way you excel. And the way especially Instagram is really hard to grow nowadays, but you know how to do it, and you just stick with it. So that's my. He says, "We're speaking in general." Okay, so we gave good general advice here.
Art's tough. It's hard, because you compete with other artists, and it's it can be tough. I mean, that applies for any job, but like, it's. I mean, my only frame of reference, honestly, would be with music, because I did music, somewhat semi-professionally. And one of the things that I learned from that was, early on in the game, like, if you want to get your content out there, you got to be willing to like kind of give it away for like the first, um, couple of years until it takes off. And then you can start charging it. Like if you want to sell prints or something like that, like back then, you're in a band, you play anywhere you can, you get in front of anybody, you know what I mean? And I guess the same thing with artists, just try and get yourself out there enough that you get in front of the right person who's going to be able to appreciate that and hopefully translate that to something that you can turn into a job.
Okay.
Don't get it out there, get the exposure that you need.
All right. Howard's asking, I've been using YouTube Studio. Is there better software? What are you using YouTube Studio for? That's, as far as I know, that's just for you to load up stuff into YouTube. If you're talking about video editing software, if you're on Apple, iMovie is good enough. If you're on a PC, I know there's some free stuff. DaVinci is an awesome program. It's very intense, but it's an awesome program. So let me know, are you talking about an editing program? And we can pick that back up. DG Korean, I'll have to jot down some stuff. Mike Titula told me the same. And he's talking about starting a YouTube channel. And yeah, you know what? That is what you're going to hear from anybody who has a show, because anybody who has a show has realized how much you can't prepare for. You cannot, you can spend your entire life You can take classes. You can prepare in your mind. But we all know that we learned once we did it. And I mean, looking back at me doing the podcast or videos, it would be so hard for me to tell you everything that you needed because they're so individual. Your podcast and your videos, it's not like we're creating a movie for the cinema. It's not like we're creating a TV show that is like homogenized. And so it's going to be attractive to millions and millions of people there. What we're doing and the magic of social media is that we have personalized niches. Dan does amphibians. I do chameleons. And then I do entrepreneurship in the reptile community. And these things are so individual that our personality is a huge factor in what we produce because we're doing it. And so it's very hard for somebody to tell you how to do something because it's not standardized. It's very personal. And so you've got to just start and just assume that you're gonna suck for a while and your first episodes are going to be embarrassing, and that's actually a badge of honor. Everybody loves to say at 500 episodes, go look at my first episodes, they were horrible, ha ha ha, and we all laugh because it's true for all of us. And that's just go through it. It's not only just something that happens. I think it's a necessary part of growing up in podcasting or YouTubing or doing any of this. So bite the bullet, jump in and make some horrible stuff, because that's the way you get to making good stuff. Yeah. Very important. Do you have any dart frogs? Yes, I have an Azurius. I love my little Azurius. Okay, let's see if we have let's do. All right, we'll take one more, unless someone wants something very interesting down there. It's one thing to attract an audience, but keeping an audience can be the most difficult thing, in my opinion. You're absolutely right, Howard. If you look at social media right now, the focus is on discovery. Focus is on building your followership. And that is, I'll say it's in my opinion, but I feel so strongly about it. I'll say the fact is that we need to have a plan for what do we do with people once we collect them. Once we have, I say on Chameleon Academy, I've got 26,000 or something followers. What am I going to do with them? Do I really need 36,000, 56,000? Well, what am I going to do with them? And the answer is you take care of them. Why are they there? And so any one of us who has an outreach, we have to have a little bit of discovery and stuff like stupid Instagram reels that go out there to bring in people. But we can't get caught up in doing that 100% of the time. We need to have the meat and potatoes, the things that people come to us for, the very quality educational or the experience, whatever it is we've promised our audience. And so, yeah, you are absolutely correct. And it is a problem in today's social media with the attention on growth instead of taking care of the people who are your audience. Because, and I guess I can just, I'll say one more thing. You get me on this topic and I may go on forever, but I'll just say one more thing. If we don't take care of our audience, we are going to get caught up in an endless cycle of growth, which on the outside sounds great. We are all judged by how big our accounts are. But the fact is, if we don't take care of our people, if we don't keep the real fans, the real followers, those numbers are going to be empty. And we are just going to be having people that just come because they want to see us get bitten by a chameleon. And nobody's going to be there because they want to learn how to take care of chameleons and advanced fogging and all that kind of stuff. So if we don't take care of the people that come, we're going to end up trapped in a hamster wheel of constant growth. And that's all our account is going to be about, because we're just going to have a bunch of bots and people from India and Brazil who are wonderful, but often are just there to see us get bit by a chameleon or something. So very, very good point. So, all right, we can probably start coming to a close. And Reefy does want to know, how many chameleons do you have, Bill? The answer is, I don't know. And I like it that way, because if I don't know, then I don't have to tell my wife when she asks me. But that's what I used to say. I don't have to say that anymore, because now she has more reptiles than I do. And so she is trying not to answer me when I ask her how many she has. So, tables have turned. So, all right. We can close this up. Dan, do you have any final words for these adoring fans?
Oh God, I just with anything else in life, if there's something that you enjoy and you want to use your abilities to create, just don't let anything stand in your way. Just do it. If you want to become a creator, you want to become someone who does something that's niche, just do it. Get up one morning, make the first step, do it. So my advice. And thank you, Bill, for having me on. It's my first
Absolutely.
my first live stream. So I hope my deadpan delivery came off as well in video as it normally does.
Oh,
In
of course.
audio.
It was great having you. And I'm going to echo what he says. Be careful thinking about something for too long. I fell into that trap when I started. I thought I wanted to start a podcast. For some reason, I think it's 2 years. It may have been 1 year. I don't know. But it took such a long time for me to actually get started. Now, back then, it was a little bit more difficult to start than it is now. But right now, I would say, if you want to start, when I say just start, I mean, don't think about starting. Say, I want to start, then say, okay, I'm going to start. What are the things I need to do? Make a list, go through that list, whatever medium you're interested in, and just make an episode. Stop thinking about it, because if you think about it, it will just take, everybody can tell you, if you think about it, it will take too long, and you'll just not do it. And don't over prepare. I got to tell you how many, I'll tell you a story before I go. I I took a class in live productions. It was someone offering it. I said, people who are really into this, they do this and they charge and they got millions of dollars. And so, okay, I'm going to take this 3-day seminar, 3-day course, conference in doing live productions. And I can tell you, I got some good stuff out of it, but not necessarily, I didn't really need it before starting. But the thing is, we had these breakout sessions, and we got to know people. And there were people in those breakout sessions that this was their third time taking this conference for creating live sessions. And they hadn't done a live session yet. It's like, they were preparing every year. And I'm going to do it this year. I'm going to do it this year. It's like, come on. No, you're not. Don't go to another class. Just do it. And if you got a problem, then go to a class. But the thing is, it's so easy to think that you're doing it by preparing. You're not. You're not. Do it. Just start and build the plane while it's flying. That's what I got to say. So, oh, hey, look at that. 2 favorite hobby educators. Excellent, excellent. And DJ Korean, thank you very much. So, and everybody, I appreciate you coming here and joining us for this live session. I've got an interview with Dan that I released as a podcast and as a video interview on the YouTube channel. And so I invite you, if you'd like to hear more about our conversation, you can go listen to that. And if you have any questions about starting, an outreach, a YouTube, a podcast, a business. That's what the Reptile Entrepreneur is here for. Got a lot of episodes, and let me know if there's something more that you're looking for, because really these outreaches are here to serve the community. The whole reason I started this is because uh, there were so many people wanting to start businesses and wanting to start an outreach, and they didn't know how to do it. It's like they knew every other part of how to do it, but not this one part, and everybody had a different part they needed. So I say, let's do a show for this and to support the people. So please use this as a resource to help you create a side business and outreach that you really want to, that can help build our community. That's what we're here for. So, all right, everybody, thank you very much. And I guess we'll say goodbye. Dan, thank you.
Thank you, and everybody who the comments and the questions. Thank you. I like to interact with people, and it's interesting to hear people's input. And for everyone who listened to my show and Bill's, thank you. I appreciate the interest,
Yeah,
and
well,
it's rewarding to see that you can create something that other people
yeah,
appreciate.
and
So
Amphibicast is just an awesome show on amphibians, and so I am rooting for
that's
you
all right.
to keep, keep,
All
keep
right.
doing that, because not to prolong this, but I am really encouraged and happy with how many people are starting these kind of niche shows and podcasts. And so, I mean, it is awesome to see what we're doing in this community. And so I love seeing that. Anyway, everybody, thank you very much. And we'll see you